Good. All right. Let's call to order the May 11th briefing session and legislative session. Council Administrator Crago, take it away on the 18th.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Oh.
Could I call roll?
We got to call the roll first. I'm such a hurry. You're supposed to help me on that. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Council President Beggs.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
I'll restart.
Here, and you're really quiet.
Oh. Councilmember Cathcart.
Present.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Present.
Councilmember Mumm.
Here.
Councilmember Stratton.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present.
And now I'll turn it over to City Administrator Wes Crago.
Good afternoon. This will be your consent agenda for Monday, the 18th of May. First up, item number 1 is a one-year value blanket order with Neptune Technology. Lauren Searles will give the briefing.
This is a one-year value blanket valued at a total of $1.4 million. This was competitively bid again this year. We had 40 contacts we went out to, and Neptune Technology was the only response. We're recommending an approval with a one-year value blanket with a option of 4 one-year renewals. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Item number 2 is a contract amendment with Azteca Systems. Michael Sloan.
Good afternoon, Council. This first item, number 2, OPR 0235, is an add-on to a current contract we have with Azteca. And this is a module API that we're adding to this contract. So it interfaces with our new utility billing system that's coming. So the department requests to add this for your requesting your approval.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Michael's also up next with 3-year contracts.
Want me to continue with the next 2 then?
Yes, Michael, go ahead. I'm sorry, we have a little technical glitch here. Yeah, Michael, go ahead and continue with the next 2 contracts as well.
Okay. Thanks, sir. The next one is a new 3-year contract through Structured, a local VAR that we work with. It's OPR 0467. This is a capital replacement purchase. We upgrading our data center hardware storage, and the capacity add is based on just business data growth. And one of the key items we provided in the approval statement was the police department has a large amount of data that they actually had to purchase some mobile storage devices, which we need to move that data. Tarwe needs to take that data and put it in our data center so it's backed up and more secure. So that's part of this growth plan. This is newer technology. It is something that we had planned for in the 2020 capital purchase in our SIP. And then item B, 0468, is our renewal. It's a renewal for a 3-year contract through SHI. They're our state-approved VAR for Microsoft products. We have 2 agreements with Microsoft. We have an enterprise agreement, 3-year annuals, and then this Select Plus agreement. So Plus, we still utilize, if you will, for one-off purchases, Microsoft projects, SQL databases, and the like. Now, a note here for us is that the previous contract was $133,929, and in an effort to try to reduce our costs, we were able to go through and update our SQL database environment, and we were able to eliminate several licenses, and that's what drops this cost. So it's a substantial decrease, from the previous 3 years. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Next up is a low bid acceptance from La Riviere for the Kempe to Woodridge transmission main. Dan Biller's going to present, and Scott Simmons will brief as well.
So this is Dan Buller. This item 4 was briefed on April 20th, and per the council request, it was returned to PIES on the 27th for further discussion. Staff was to complete a full SEPA process, even though the project is exempt from SEPA. We've confirmed that SEPA exemption with the Director of Planning at Spokane County, whose opinion mattered since this project lies almost entirely within Spokane County. Nevertheless, we did this as requested, and it's in its final days of the comment period, which will end on Thursday of this week. We'll incorporate anything that comes out of that process and comment period. Any thoughts, or maybe Scott's going to talk now?
Nope, I think we just wanted that update on the SEPA. We're thankful that you. I think the only issue we had was the SEPA, so it was great to hear that report that you took that request to heart, and we look forward to hearing the information once you have that.
Council President, this is Candace.
Yes, Council Member.
Hi, thank you. I really appreciate you folks doing the full SEPA review. In looking at all the great documents you folks provided, I just want to clarify, it is not entirely within the city limits of the county. Isn't it true that part of the project is in the city because it's in the Woodridge tank that we own? So the city does have a city portion of it at the Woodridge tank site.
So the last 50 feet, 100 feet is on the tank site, which will connect. The private party does most of the work within the city, but there is about a 50 or 100 foot within city limits. That is correct.
Right. So this is not just a City of Spokane project. The only way the pipeline works is if the private contractor pays for that last section. Is that correct?
That's the arrangement. We're doing the part in the county. He's doing the part in the city.
Right. So I think that's important for folks to know, because it's not just a city project. There's a private party involved.
Okay.
And just so I'll be happy to share that information too that came to light, that there was some documents from the hearing examiner that showed that certainly the timing of it is sort of with this private developer, because you can't build a pipeline half of it. I guess you could. And I'm not sure where that stands now, but there was some suggestion that the whole project could potentially be funded by the private developer, since it's almost all on private property. So that was some interesting documentation that I read. So I really want to thank you for providing that whole file. And we'll look forward to hearing what the comment says, and we can have a further discussion on Monday. Thank you.
Okay, item number 5 is a contract amendment and extension with American Medical Response. Mike Lopez will brief, and I will back clean up on that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kriegel, and Council President Jakes, and members of the City Council. Thanks for the opportunity to brief you on contract with AMR. AMR and the City of Spokane have a sole provider contract. It was bid back in 2015. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Technology, I don't do well with technology. So anyway, the contract is a 5-year contract with a 5-year renewal, and the renewal period is on us. And so we are briefing you today on that renewal. With the advent of the COVID outbreak, there's been a lot of impacts on healthcare system, obviously on the Puget Sound area. We saw a tremendous surge on EMS. Fortunately, we haven't seen a surge here in our community. That being said, we still don't know what's ahead of us in the upcoming months as we start to back to a normal life. The has proposed a 1-year interim contract to allow some patients to the model to address surge, to address increased time for contamination of both vehicles, personnel, and then also to preserve fire department resources in order to be available for acute EMS responses, fire suppression, other activities the fire department is responsible for. Along with that, the folks at AMR have proposed a rate increase in excess of what contractually is available to them. In our contract, we allow an increase annually based on the previous year's all urban consumer price index, which has, for the last few years, been right around 2 to 2.5%. The proposed rate increase, obviously, is in excess of that, and there's some reasons for that in terms of just getting in line with some of the other communities throughout the Pacific Northwest, as well as addressing the increased cost of business associated with labor agreements, additional PPE, COVID outbreak, pharmaceutical costs have dramatically upwards over the past 5 years. And in fact, there are times when some life-saving medications aren't available to us. And then when they do hit the market, they sometimes are as much as 2 to 3 times what we were paying previously. All those factors come in, start considering a rate increase above what contractually is allowed. The other phenomenon that typically in our about 25% of the response ends up with no transport. Over the past 2.5 months, what we call dry run ratio has actually increased to about 40%. So again, AMR is not allowed to charge for non-transports. They only can charge when the patient is transported to the hospital. All those factors come into play. At the Public Safety and Community Wellness or Health and Wellness Subcommittee meeting, you were presented with a narrative as well as an executive summary of that narrative that outlined some of the nuances of reimbursement. In our community, 76% of the people are covered by Medicaid, Medicare, government-managed health insurance like the VA and TRICARE through the military, or Medicare-managed programs. That mix is actually somewhat higher than other communities. We tend to have a higher number of folks who fall into the Medicare and Medicaid age group. Medicare and Medicaid restrict or regulate the amount of money that's reimbursed for ambulance service, and those numbers are fixed. The amount increase really has no impact on what's paid by Medicaid and Medicare, and really the out-of-pocket expense to people who are most vulnerable in the community would be virtually nothing, regardless of the amount of increase that was granted by the council, by the city. I also conducted a rate survey of communities throughout the Pacific Northwest, and that was also included in your in the briefing council. I'm going to try to share my screen on that. Can everybody see that all right?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
all right, thank you. So just going through the Spokane current is what the city of Spokane permits AMR to bill, and it will for a transport. So you can see about $707.39. If you look at some of the other companies in Pacific Northwest, that is a lot more than, or a lot less than some of the other communities. The exception is Snohomish Fire and Rescue, which is just a couple $100 over AMR in Spokane. We looked at Idaho communities, and I want to point out that talking about the dry run or non-transport percentages here in Spokane, AMR doesn't charge for that. Counties in Idaho actually are charging for that treat and release function. So here in Kootenai County and Ada County, the FAR 2 right ones, in Kootenai County, they signed a $319. In Ada County, it's $136 for a BLS call and $317.21 for a ALS treat and no transfer. So with that being said, the fire department has suggested or recommended $975 base rate that AMR would be allowed to charge, which is about 28% over what's currently being charged. AMR is responsible that they would prefer to do a 5-year contract renewal as opposed to a 1-year interim contract. And so we would be open to guidance from the council. I'm going to stop right here and see if anybody has questions.
Mike Lopez, this is Lori Kinnear. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicate all the different charges for other communities. Are there any of these communities, or do we have communities in Washington where the fire department actually transports?
Yes, so that's a great question. South Snohomish Fire and Rescue is a fire department-based transport entity. East Pierce Fire, right under Tacoma, is a fire-based transport agency. Kittitas Valley Fire over in the Ellensburg area is a fire-based. Kootenai County, Idaho is a public service. They're not a private, as well as Ada County, they're a third service. So there are some fire departments.
Has there been any research that would tell us if it's a viable option for us?
If fire transport is a viable option?
Yes.
We've looked at that in the past, and the cost of providing that service, I think, would far exceed even the $975 base rate for a number of different reasons. The other piece of the puzzle is that there would be a significant capital outlay in terms of purchasing ambulances with fully stocked ambulances, stretchers, heart monitors, etc. I think that you would find that that cost, depending on the vehicle make and model, would be somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000 each if we got into the transport business.
And
I would. Oh, I'm not going to say anything.
What's that?
Sorry, I just add to Mr. Lopez's comment that we have looked into it, and the cost, especially the overall new enterprise cost of getting into the business. First, it's not regulatorily allowed in the situation that we have, but also the cost was far exceeding our capability, and the reimbursement wouldn't pay for the service. So it would be adding another liability to the city's enterprise that we just couldn't afford.
This is Wes Craig. I'm going to just jump in and make another kind of global highlight of the contract, in that the administration, when this comes up, will probably recommend for a 5-year contract. I've got a little personal experience with the volatility of EMS systems, and when this contract was negotiated 5 years ago, it was a pretty radically different market. And going forward, this is a compromise language that both sides compromise to arrive at the agreement, but it is a sustainable model for EMS, which is incredibly important. It's fair to both sides, and it's reasonable. If you look at those comparables, the rates are very comparable for Spokane. We still would have a 100-day out clause, but AMR, and I've got about a 15-year experience with them, they're very responsive. If there's an issue, that they're always willing to meet and kind of work that out. And during very uncertain times, having certainty for the next few years with our EMS provider, I think, is very, very important for our community.
Council President.
Mike Cathcart.
Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. So what exactly are the options, and when does the current contract expire? I know there's an option for a 1 year at a 20% increase. What is the rate increase that's proposed in a 5 year? I've different numbers.
I think it's 28%.
Contract expires on June 1st, or the renewal would be June 1st.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry, Cathcart, I didn't get your second.
What are the options on the table in terms of what the proposals are for extensions, the 1 year and the 5 year? What are the numbers?
So on both, whether it's the 1 year or the 5 year, we've proposed permitting the AMR folks to charge $975 at base rate, maintaining their current mileage and charge for oxygen. That base rate applies whether the patient is an ALS patient requiring paramedic intervention or ELS patient. So it's what we refer to as rate.
So it's a 20% increase regardless of the time period extension. I guess for me that just is pretty. I mean, when we're when you've got people who are basically using Uber and Lyft to get to the hospital to avoid these high ambulance costs, and then we're going to increase it 20% on them. That just a little out there, especially when it's not part of the current deal, and we haven't gone out for other bids or other to see what competition is out there and what they can provide. That seems just a little too far out there at this point.
This is Council President Beggs, and I'm just going to suggest that if there's room on the Finance Committee agenda on Monday, that we dive into this a little more, because we have a lot of things to get done before 4:30. The Health District has an important meeting coming up, and I think we should discuss it further. One thing I asked for last Monday, I haven't seen it yet, was the financials from AMR to show that they needed relief from the contract they agreed to already of the 2%. So I don't know if they're a publicly traded company or what the status of getting those financials, but that certainly maintaining the capacity is an issue. But and there's also the question of whether it's 5 years or 1. Yes.
Council President.
Yep.
Yes, you may be on finance. How much time would we need? Half an hour?
Probably at least 20 minutes. Yeah, I would say. 20
minutes. Okay, we will put you on finance, and then I just want to add, I would like to see because I didn't hear it mentioned, what the current extension agreement is. I mean, we're a couple weeks out. I hate making these decisions under the gun. I know we've had a lot going on, but maybe the simplest way to look is at the alternative of extending it under the current contract, which I think is, a 2% deal? Does that sound right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the PPE, maybe we could approach differently with COVID, because we might get paid back on that. I don't know. And then the mileage is probably, I'm curious about that as well. So if you could possibly bring another alternative or give us some reasoning as to why those alternatives wouldn't work, I think that might be important because gas is about as cheap as it's been in 5 years. So.
Okay. Thank you. Now, if I could give you back your screen, does anybody know how to do that? Sorry.
All right. We can still go to the next one.
Okay, yeah. Well, thanks, Mike. Next up is item number 6, which is a contract with WSU. Marcia Davis.
Good afternoon, Council. This is a contract with WSU for review and analysis of water regulations for the city of Spokane. The water regulations referred to in this mean both our potable our drinking water, sewer, and stormwater. So the faculty at WSU will be reviewing the regulations that the city has, along with state regulations and some federal regulations, to see where we have conflicts, where it is unclear, and putting together a matrix for us to review where they see the concerns. And then this fall, a stormwater class at WSU will be diving in deeper into some of the concerns that come up from the stormwater regulations to be able to look at best practices and what other cities have done and other things that have happened, so they can make some recommendations of areas that the city should look at for our existing regulations that may need revision. Any questions?
A quick question, Marcia. How long ago was it that we looked at these? Maybe you said that, but I didn't catch it.
Looked at the regulations?
Yes.
I am not aware that we've ever looked at it this broad of an area. We did look at the city regulations for stormwater back in 2013, 2014.
Right.
This is going to be a broader look at taking into consideration water and sewer. And so it's a bigger, but it was in 2013 we did look at the stormwater regulations, and we did make some upgrades at that point.
And are we employing any smart cities principles here or technology? Is that part of it?
Not for this initial stage. It's going to be a paperwork exercise. This is not at this point. We're hoping in the future to move this to go on to other phases of it, but this is the part that we're under contract for, is this first class and for the overview of just our regulations.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Item number 7 is a city sponsorship of a Northeast PDA. Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, actually, it's a little strange. There's actually a separate item that should be on the consent that's not there. I think so. The item that's on there basically is just allowing David, the exec director of the NEPDA, to access benefits through AWC, and to do that, he just needs sponsorship basically through the city. So it's a pretty basic item. And then there's a separate item. It's in the briefing papers, but for some reason isn't listed on consent, and that is and we'll get that figured out. It is scheduled for committee next Monday, but that's an item to carve out Beacon Hill from the. It's really a fix. It was an oversight when the contract was put together, but it carves Beacon Hill out so that the GFCs up there are collected, because there's a deal in place for the developer to be reimbursed through GFCs. And so that's another item that should be listed here, but we'll get that corrected and figured out.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cal. How many people do you have on that NEPA board now?
I think we're still short one, but we've got Commissioner Kearns as the chair, I'm vice chair, and then Cheryl Stewart, and I'm missing Scott Simmons is on there, and there's one other, the name is slipping my mind. if Scott's on the line, he can answer. But we have, I believe it's 3, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now.
Okay. And you're a non-voting member, is that correct?
No, I'm a voting member.
Okay, we need to probably clear that up because I think there's supposed to be a couple of our community folks that are on that board. When you were talking, I was thinking about it. So when you're on a council, I think you're a non-voting, but we'll clear that up and get that to you.
This is Scott. Can everyone hear me? There are 2 additional members as well, in addition to what Michael said. It was Jerry Gemmel from the county and another private citizen, Jordan Tampion. So that puts us to 6 of the 7 right now. And all the 7 under the PDA interlocals, both the West Plains and the Northeast, are all full voting members. All of the members are.
Okay. Yeah, I know we had some iterations there, so we'll look into it. I'm just glad that the community members were brought back in. I'm just trying to get all those boards and commissions put up so you can at least do some business and operate. So thank you.
Okay, item number 8 is a utility agreement, and Nathan Annison will brief.
Yeah, good afternoon. This amendment provides an additional $1,077,800 in reimbursement to the City of Spokane from WashDOT to perform removal, replacement, and construction of city water and sewer facilities that are in conflict with the North Spokane corridor. So we'll be increasing the contract from $359,927 to $1,437,737. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Nathan. Item number 9, a data sharing agreement with United Way. Cindy will brief.
Good afternoon, Council. This data share agreement is just basically an agreement between United Way and the City of Spokane. So My Spokane has created an online volunteer portal for city-sponsored volunteer events. And this site is hosted by Galaxy Digital. It's also the United Volunteer site is also hosted by Galaxy Digital. So essentially what the DSA is going to do is going to simply allow for any participants of volunteer opportunities to kind of seamlessly go from City of Spokane volunteer site to the United Way site on the 4 United Way sponsored volunteer events. I know that there were some questions around information that's going to be shared. One of the questions was asked is whether or not the participants' information, whether it's accessible to a third party, and the answer to that is no. The participant can opt out of any information being shared. And simply, I just want to stress that the only information that's going to be shared is the name of the participant. But even if the participant is uncomfortable with having that information shared, they can still opt out of volunteer opportunities that way. And the only thing that will be accessible to the public also, again, is just the participant's name. And if we end up deleting any of the volunteer events from public or any participating agencies, that information goes away. So that is that for the data share agreement. Are there any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Cindy. Next up is...
Thank you.
Oh, is there a question? Okay, item number 10 is report of the mayor on claims and payments and warrants. Item 11 is the city council minutes, and that would be our consent agenda.
And then we're on to the legislative session.
Legislative session for the 18th. First up is Resolution 0030 on appointing Raylene Gennett as our Director of Wastewater Management. And Megan Sandelson is here to brief.
Great, thank you. This is Megan, and I'm bringing forward Raylene Gennett, her appointment to the Director of Wastewater Management. I sent out her candidate materials on Friday via email to all the council members. If there are any questions about the materials or any of that information, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I was happy to sponsor this, but this is a new position. It's correct, for people to know.
Yes. Yep. Yes. And it is on the Finance Committee agenda, so I'll be available to answer any other questions that come up this week.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Megan. Next up is Resolution 3-1, and Council President Beggs will talk about support for the safe start of the economic activity.
Yep, and as I mentioned at our committee meeting this afternoon, now that we understand the system a little better, that it's the Washington Secretary of Health who grants variances, this essentially supports our local public health officer's opinion on that, and I've recently seen that where he recommends due consideration for a variance for Spokane, and we're going to be voting on that, the Public Health District Board, in a few minutes. And we may take this up on Thursday as opposed to next Monday. But that's been updated since it was originally filed and will be available for people.
Next up is Resolution 3-2, also by Council President Beggs, on the ICLEI USA agreement.
Yeah, we talked about this PIES a couple of weeks ago, and it's really two very related things. City of Spokane used to be a member of ICLEI USA, and this would renew that at $2,500 a year. It provides us tools that our staff can use for monitoring our gas, and those are things we have to monitor under our ordinances, and so our sense is that will save us money and staff time, and we'll just be better data collectors. And Global Covenant of Mayors is a commitment of mayors and cities around the world to move towards more sustainability. And City Council can make that happen. We've offered it to the mayor's office if she wanted to join at this time. And at this point, she's deferring that discussion because she's got a lot of other important things that she's working on as well. But I'm recommending we go ahead. So that's why that resolution is there.
Council President?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Councilmember Cathcart. I'd like to make a motion that we defer this item until July 8th or at some meeting after the emergency has been rescinded on the basis that it's not COVID related, nor is it necessary and routine.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay. So there's a motion on the table to defer. I will speak in opposition to that, and that is that the data on COVID deaths shows that air pollution has a very strong correlation in increasing the death rates for people who suffer from COVID, which is why I put it on the agenda now. The faster we move on that, the healthier people will be who are struggling with COVID. So that's why I'd like to get it going. And we also it is necessary and regular regardless of COVID, because under the ordinance, we are supposed to have a sustainability plan completed, and this will greatly enhance our ability to get that done at a lower cost than people doing it manually. So, other comments for or against the motion to defer to July 8th? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of deferring to July 8th?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All those opposed, say nay.
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 Nay. Okay. So
Nay.
that motion fails at this time. And then we're on to the next.
Okay, next up is an ordinance C-35908, which will establish policy related to homelessness response efforts, and that is also sponsored by Council President Beggs.
And this actually is probably not going to be on next week's agenda because there was a note to perhaps advance it to first reading tonight, which I am not going to make that motion. But just heads up, again, we talked about it in committee this afternoon. This ordinance would hope to smooth out the process of opening and closing warming centers and homeless shelters, because over the last several years we've had some disruptive times around those contracts ending and starting. But I had some great meetings with the mayor this last week, and I'm confident that we're not going to have that issue coming up on May 15th, and I'm not authorized to make announcements, but they will become forthcoming soon. And so I'm very pleased with the mayor's effort and commitment, and really her taking really a personal hand in moving things forward in that. I really appreciated that.
Okay, next up is Ordinance C-35870, which was deferred back from March 16th, generally called the Mosquito Ordinance. And Councilmember Burke.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to defer this till June 15th.
Yep.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of deferring to June 15th, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? All right, that's deferred to June 15th.
That would be the legislative agenda.
And Madam Clerk, if you'd like to read the consent agenda for May 11th.
Did you want to take an action to approve?
Oh, I do,
advance?
actually.
Thank you.
Where is Councilmember Fagan when I need him? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve the advanced agenda.
Yep. There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Abstentions. Advance agenda for May 18th is approved. Now, Madam Clerk, consent agenda for May 11th.
Reports, contracts, and claims. Number 1, contract amendment with the Vista Corporation, Spokane, Washington, for the small generator interconnection agreement and the accompanying title transfer agreement for city ownership of and joint operational access to the Upriver Dam high voltage electric switch yard. Number 1. Number 2, revenue agreement with Viola ES Technical Solutions, LLC, Boston, Massachusetts, for special disposal services provided by the waste energy facility, projected annual revenue of $100,000. Number 3, low bid of La Riviera Incorporated, Rathdrum, Idaho, for the Hamilton Street Corridor intersection improvement, $3,316,111.20, an administrative reserve of $331,611.12, which is 10% of the contract price, will be set aside. Item number 4, report of the mayor of pending A claims and payments of previously approved obligations, including those of Parks and Library, through May 1, 2020, total $3,704,218.10, with Parks and Library claims approved by the respective boards. Warrants excluding Parks and Library total $2,334,292.86. 4B, payroll claims of previously approved obligations through May 2, 2020, $7,039,724.68. Item number 5, City Council meeting minutes for April 27, 2020.
Any discussion prior to voting? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Any abstentions? Consent agenda for May 11th is approved. That brings us to the legislative agenda. No special budget ordinances, no emergency ordinances, but we have some regular matters, if you want to read the first one.
Resolution 2020-28, declaring Wilson and Company a sole source provider and authorizing contract and the expenditure of approximately $91,080 for BNSF inspection services associated with the Rowan Forest Main project without public bidding.
We had that briefed last week. There were no questions. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. Next resolution.
Resolution 2020-29, directing City of Spokane Neighborhood and Planning Services Department staff to conduct an abbreviated sub-area planning process in an area adjacent to the North Foothills Employment Center as designated on the land use plan map for the purposes of undertaking the addition of CC3 Centers and Corridors Type 3 zoning overlay.
And Terrell Black is here. She's presented to us more extensively, but she's going to do a quick overview for us and answer any questions.
Yeah. Thank you. This is Terrell Black from the Planning Department. This item was briefed extensively at a study session on April 16th, and also we did discuss at the advance agenda on May 4th. So this resolution will direct staff to begin community outreach to consider expanding a zoning overlay in the North Foothills area. I'm going to show you an aerial view in the next slide, but this area is a part of the city near North Foothills and Hamilton intersection in the vicinity of Gonzaga Prep and the city's water department. The zoning overlay that we're talking about is a CC3. It's called Centers and Corridors Type 3. It doesn't change the base zoning in the area. There are 2 planned projects in this vicinity that currently have sites that are in 2 zoning categories, both the Centers and Corridors category and the light industrial. And with this overlay, they will be able to do a more cohesive site design. So these 2 proposed projects are Gonzaga Haven, which is sponsored by Catholic Charities of Eastern Washington, and Northeast Middle School, which is District 81 Spokane Schools. And both of those the city has been supportive of through other efforts. So here's the aerial. You'll see the yellow hashed area is the area that we're talking about adding the overlay to. In this area is where Gonzaga Haven's proposed, and then here is District 81. So this is Hamilton, moving up Nevada here. This is a signalized intersection, and then the other Perry here is also a signalized intersection. This is the zoning map for the area. So the green shows CC1EC, which is the Centers and Corridors Type 1. In this map, it's a red hashed area that shows where the zoning expansion or the zoning overlay is proposed, and this is over a light industrial area. So you can go to the city's webpage and use the mapping feature if you're interested in looking at the zoning in this area further. This resolution sets an abbreviated planning process to be used in this area. It's targeted to be a small scope approach, but it will include agency notification, mailed notice to property owners within 400 feet, signs on the property, workshops and hearing before Plan Commission, and ultimately a hearing with City Council. And we would anticipate that would come back to the Council in the fall of 2020. I wanted to again say this is a very targeted and small process that we're proposing. There's some timelines involved for Catholic Charities and the school district to get going on their site design. The current work program for planning means that we would like to take a shorter look at this area. And also there's some industrial uses to the east that we don't feel that the area, the CC3, should be expanded over without further study. So with that quick overview, I did want to mention that there's letters of support in the agenda packet from both Catholic Charities and Spokane Schools. We don't have a project page up, but we will soon as we begin working with the agencies and the public. My contact information's on this slide, so I welcome questions from anyone on this. And of course, you can also contact your council people and they can get you in touch with me as well. And so with that, I would like to conclude, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, Cheryl?
Yes.
This is Mike Cathcart. Hey, I just want to thank you for bringing this forward and working on this. I think it's a very modest upzone, but I think it's a good one. And I think based on our conversations, I think both, well, I don't want to speak for Councilmember Burke, but I think there was interest in even something a little bit expanded beyond this. So, but I think this is a great project and something that's good to do for that area.
Thank you.
Real quick, Council President, may I ask a question as well as Councilmember?
Yes.
Cheryl, do you mind just quickly going back to that map? I'm just curious, and I apologize I didn't catch this earlier. Was there any reason why you just didn't go up one more business there to finish the block on the street there between the Haven and the industrial area? It just seems odd to quit.
Between Gonzaga Haven?
Can you show me the map? I apologize.
I'm showing the zone. Oh, I forgot to share my screen again. Small detail. Just a second here. Let me go back to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I believe I'm sharing the zoning map.
So why didn't we extend it? I'm sorry, there's no street name on the far west side. Why didn't we just go up one right there to finish? So it's sort of weird to go just halfway up the street. Nevada. It's Nevada.
This one, that is, because this is centers and corridors already.
No, forward north is hashtag, or the hash, proposed CC3 overlay. Why don't we take it all the way up to the arterial?
Up to Euclid north? Is that what you're talking about?
North
over the CB 55.
Yeah, just take it all the way up to, why we didn't take it to the intersection? It just seems weird to do it for part of the street.
The streets are usually the midpoints for the zoning boundary, and the applicant didn't need this area. The CB 55 works fine for them. Generally, we've applied this over the light industrial areas around centers, so that's the pattern that we've continued to follow.
So it won't affect the quality of the street with the CC3 overlay?
The applicant is actually planning for this Gonzaga Haven to ask for a street vacation. So that will also come before council as a separate action.
Okay. I can talk with you, I guess. I'm just concerned, so we're going to vacate only part of the street?
I believe that they will ask for this whole street vacation.
Okay.
The site plan that I've seen shows that as an aggregated site.
Would there be any benefit to extend the CC3 for the length of the street?
No.
Okay.
Because they use CC1 zoning. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we vote? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of Resolution 29 indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. The next ordinance is really part of the hearing coming up. I already indicated earlier, I'm not going to move to suspend the rules on first reading, so I think we're at hearing number 1, if you want to read that.
Okay. Final reading ordinance C-35-899 relating to permit fees, heating mechanics licenses, building official review, proposed amendments to 17F fences, adoption of current state building codes, elevators and dangerous conveyances, and application for workers' licenses, amending Spokane Municipal Code sections 8.02.031, 10.29.030, 11.19.720, 17C.110.230, 17F.030.010, 17F.040.010, 17F.050.010, 17F.060.040, 17F.060.060, 17F.080.010, 17F.090.010, 17F.100.010, and 17G.010.200. Deferred from March 30, 2020 agenda.
And Mr. Garcia, I think you're going to talk to us about this.
Yes, I'm actually filling in for building official Dermot Murphy today. So I'm going to go ahead and speak about the updates. Kind of the overarching concept here is that it's really housekeeping, trying to bring stuff in line with state law and also update to current standards and eliminate any discrepancies. So this project does have a web page that has been shared out. That web page was actually launched in October of 2019. There was an outreach effort to the industry professionals, and I didn't see any comment to date. There was a SEPA notice that was sent out. That was the January 15th for the SEPA notice. And it was briefed more of a courtesy since it's dealing with a 17F section, so it doesn't have a kind of a path to the Plan Commission. But on January 22nd, it actually did get briefed over at the Plan Commission as well. So as I mentioned before, this is really to remove any outdated standards, kind of bring everything up and do some housekeeping. It also ensures that we're using the most up-to-date information that's available and that the State Building Code Council actually provides for us. It further clarifies the building official's position in the adopting of codes and ordinances, and this is really for a consistency basis, that when we have one official that would have a review of the family of codes, that would give them the opportunity to have everything more consistent for the benefit of the public. So the first section that is going to be amended is talking about the building permit valuation. So the way the fees are structured in permitting fashion is based on the cost of construction. So obviously construction costs do change with markets, but the International Code Council, who is the publisher of the building codes, actually publishes a building valuation data kind of newsletter, if you will. And they do it twice annually, and this is a consistent practice in most kind of active building departments, that they'll make sure that they're using the most accurate building valuation data. Really what that does is that it puts everybody in a level playing field throughout the different municipalities and has a consistent construction valuation. This section was talking about, and I think this was actually a request on behalf of local industry professionals, kind of to remove a licensing requirement that was part kind of a previous training that they would have. You know, the mechanics license level 1 teaches this, the item that was trying to be discussed under this section. So really it's kind of more of a dial back deregulation on that to allow more user-friendly contractors to be able to do that work. The building official. So the way the building codes are structured, it recognizes a code official that's in responsible charge. So the building official is usually that person. So the building official will have the ability and should be the kind of the decision maker on the building codes. And again, that's for consistency and continuity throughout all the family of codes, because what's in the plumbing code or the fire code or anything else could affect how a construction standard is actually applied. So we don't want to amend one without amending the other, and this kind of draws a line of consistency throughout the entirety of the family of codes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
This is Karen. This came up a while ago, and it sounds like a silly question, but do we have an official, building official that's been approved and approved by City Council?
I believe we have, well, I know we have a building official, Dermot Murphy, and he is appointed by the mayor, I want to say.
Okay, I don't know if that was one that, I know it happened last year. Yeah. I don't know if City Council had to approve that or not, but that was a question that came to me probably 6 months ago. So.
Yeah, I know that the building code really wants to identify one code official, again, for that agency. So, Durham Murphy was actually kind of default as a deputy when he was hired as a deputy building official. So as far as the codes and how they recognize this individual, that has always been in place. This code section was more, kind of codifying that position to make sure that everything is done in a consistent manner.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if that's a position that council needs to approve, we might want to put that before us pretty soon.
Copy. Absolutely. Okay. So the next section that we're discussing is actually talking about fences and how they apply to pool barriers. So any, according to the State Building Code Council and the I-codes, any body of water that has a depth of 18 inches or a capacity of 18 inches in depth should have a pool barrier around it. The way our zoning code is written, it's only going to contemplate having the physical vertical barrier, so a physical fence, even though the building safety codes actually have exceptions for them for more modern technologies, such as a locking cover that has a remote key to cover over to it. So this has a listed cover, can withstand point load pressure, so it's not a drowning hazard. It does have to be like a keyed covered in order to meet that exception. This code section just allows us to kind of use those more advanced and more modern safety features. This section of the code is actually a great section because it's kind of a frustration of mine, and a lot of different cities and towns haven't done this. They would actually try to codify a specific edition, a specific year of the code. So, for example, the 2018 editions of the codes. What that does is that it forces us to make changes to those codes because the code is on a 3-year update cycle. So what this update would do is that it would say, we're going to recognize the state building code's most current edition because we have to be obedient to state law, so we don't have to do anything different for that. Appendix sections of the building code are not enforceable unless they're specifically adopted. So they are, even though they may be contained in the code, they're not in the body of code. So this section is going to recognize the sprinkler provisions in that WAC as addressed in that WAC. And so we just want to make sure to codify it so it can have the force and effect as a reference standard in the building code.
This is Mike Cathcart. Can I ask a question on that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So can you go into detail as to what is required with regard to this updated WAC? I see it's a change from the 2015 to the 2018. What are the differences, and which sorts of dwellings do these apply to?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything back in, I want to say 2012, the building safety codes or the code action hearings put sprinklers into single-family dwellings. Well, a lot of states, basically everything would be sprinklered at that point. A lot of states went ahead and issued moratoriums in it because single-family, they didn't want to extend fire sprinklers to single-family. So I know that this section, so this is going to be kind of a complicated kind of a twist here, is that it's going to recognize those more, not to single-family, but to multiple attached housing if they are not meeting a certain building code or a fire rating, that you can basically swap that for instead of updating your fire resistant rating of construction, you sprinkler the building type thing. And because there was a moratorium involved in it, this allows for a local municipality to recognize that sprinklers could be that option.
So this isn't going to expand the requirement for sprinkling to single-family homes in the city of Spokane, then?
That's correct. There's still a moratorium in place at this point. So I know some states and whatnot have put like a area threshold on it, but the state of Washington has not. And we have not adopted any amendment to be more restrictive than state law in that respect.
Okay, great. And I would just remind folks, too, that a different council, but a council in 2013, passed a resolution that said that the city prefers not to implement requirements for related to fire sprinkling single-family homes just because of the costs associated with that.
Thank you, Mr. Cathcart. I was just going to mention to Mr. Beggs, he's past his 4:30 time. I know you have a very important health department meeting to go to.
We do. 3 of us do. So it'd be great. I don't know if anyone else has any more questions for.
Yeah, and I could blow right through now, and there's not a lot there after this. Again, when we start talking about elevators, this is more just to kind of round out the fire rating of an elevator shaft and places a civil infraction for any type of dangerous conveyances as they relate to elevators. Again, some more deregulation and being obedient to state law for mechanical and gas and electrical inspectors, since those are protected industries. And that's it.
All right. Any questions? Comments? All right. So that we vote on the ordinance, and I think Ms. Pfister, is that? So all those in favor of the ordinance as explained by Mr. Garcia indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. Our next scheduled regular meeting is on Thursday. Sorry. Yes, thank you.
There was one more.
Oh, there was?
Did you want to suspend the rules to add the letter to the governor?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. We wanted to consider the letter to the governor, thanking the government for sending us the CARES money. We briefed that at committee today, and the mayor has agreed to it as well. So is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion about suspending the rules? Hearing, seeing none. All those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? Okay, the rules are suspended. Is there a motion to place the letter to the governor and Lisa Brown on our agenda? Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, to place it on the agenda, all in favor, please say aye, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Okay, it's now on the agenda. And all those in favor, or any discussion about the letter, signing it or not signing it, and whoever votes aye will have their signature on it, and if you vote nay, you won't, or abstain. Any discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye and maybe raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Aye. I see everybody raising their hand. Any opposed? Nay? Abstentions? Okay. We will get that letter formatted to go along with the mayor's signature. Thank you so much. Next scheduled meeting, 11 a.m. this Thursday, study session. This meeting is adjourned. And council members, the Board of Health meeting is going on right now, so try to log in if they're not already done.
Great.